Riker's Iron presents.
Welcome back aboard, ladies and gentlemen, to Riker's Iron's Lock and Load recap series. This is the last video in the series. This is part 3, where we kind of talk about all the stuff we did, and we kind of show off a little bit more pictures and details of those events that we didn't cover during the live recaps during the actual Lock and Load, which you can find in the playlist for this video and in the links below. So I wanted to start off with some thoughts and expectations going into the convention itself. I've never been to a miniatures convention before. I didn't know what to expect in that regard. It was a troublesome experience to get there. We tried to get there in 2016. We had some family stuff come up. 2017, some friend stuff come up, and we ended up moving and some other complications. But this year we actually managed to basically recover from all those years and get out there to the convention. I was traveling with a friend of mine on Twitch known as Finbog. He's a video game developer that I met when I was at my stint in THQ, and we've been kind of miniature gaming since then, since like 2010, 11-ish together. He kind of got me into War Machine and Hordes, and as time went on, I became more and more in love with the game. I initially started out with Iron Kingdoms and kind of fell into the War Machine camp just from buying models and eventually getting a demo in. We've been wanting to go to Lock and Load since 2015, and so we finally got to go this year. And one of the things that for us is really kind of sucks about it being so far away is it's really expensive to go from Canada to, especially East Coast Canada, to West Coast USA. The trip itself cost us, before buying anything at the convention, our plane ticket was about $700 Canadian, and the actual stay at the Hilton was, even though we had the block discount, so Private to Press offers a discount block. Even though we had that discount, it was still really pricey for us because we stayed Thursday, Friday, Saturday, and Sunday night. So we did basically a 4-day, 5-day, 4 nights kind of stay there, and it ended up being about $1,000 Canadian, split between both of us. But they also, what I wasn't expecting was they charged us an additional $200 for security. And that really, $200 American, so that ate up all my spending money at the convention before I even started the convention. So that was a little frustrating and disappointing. I wasn't expecting that. When I first booked it, I thought I'd have a little bit of cash left over for a couple purchases and giveaways and things. So my traveling expectations weren't that much. I was hoping to get there really cleanly. We had to do a stopover, and there were some stressful moments with like trying to catch flights and things like that, but that's not really convention related or anything. One thing I was really worried about was I was traveling with a lot of LED models, so a lot of models with LEDs and wires and power sources inside of it, and I was super scared that the TSA and the gatekeepers of the airport would be like, no, you can't come on the plane with these, or you have to check them, or whatever it is. I didn't have any problems. They literally just looked at them and scanned them. When you looked at the actual scanner, it looked really scary, but I guess they were like, oh, we've seen maybe something like this. So the actual trip there was a little bit stressful, but when we got there, we were super relaxed, and it was really nice. And I didn't know what to expect because I'd never been to Seattle, and the convention wasn't actually in Seattle. It was Seattle adjacent in Bellevue. But when we got there, the hotel was really nice. The rooms were really big. I was not expecting that. And everything was just well done and well organized. I had never been to I've never been to any miniatures convention, but I heard that there was a lot of problems with the convention not being on site of the hotel. So they actually host the convention at the hotel, inside the hotel, and it was perfect. You could walk out your door and go play War Machine, go to an event, go to whatever it is. And I didn't know how convenient that would be until I experienced it, and it was really good. But I'll talk about that more at the end of the video with my thoughts and future expectations slash things I'd like to see from the convention itself for next visit. So I rambled there a little bit. I tend to do that. So my thoughts and expectations about the convention. I was really hoping for an experience that would revitalize some of my thoughts and ideas about competitive play, about some of the players in the community. Because in the War Machine Hordes community, there's a lot of I don't want to say angry, but there's a lot of negative press and negative comments constantly in the groups, Facebook group, the Reddit page, and even when you go to a shop, most of the time when you get there, it's a bunch of players standing around complaining about the game. And I was really hoping that the convention would revitalize my love of the community and my drive to do some more competitive gaming, because a lot of that stuff had pushed me out of competitive gaming and really turned me off playing at any steamrollers or anything like that. And honestly, I really did not expect the amazingness of everybody at the convention and the amount of people who were just so passionate about the game. My other expectation was to try and get everything in that I possibly could. So that would include things like I wanted to do Company of Iron, MonPoc, the narrative event, some dev chats, painting, hangouts, drinking, like everything I could possibly squeeze into this weekend, because it was really a guys' weekend off, and we did a ton of stuff, and we'll cover all that in this video. The high points, the key points of what I was trying to do during the event itself. My final expectations / desire from the convention was to actually meet some people who I've only seen online as chat and Twitch handles. So all the people from our community on Twitch, on Discord, on Reddit, Facebook, everybody who's ever commented on something of ours. I met a lot of you guys there, and it was awesome, like absolutely awesome. It was an experience I've never had before, and it was really neat to have people come up and you try to guess who they are, because I've never seen faces from most of the people. So some people would come up and be like, "Hey, you're Riker's Iron," and I would be like, "Yeah," and they would be like, like, "You don't know who I am?" It's like, "I've never seen your face. I've only seen a name." So it was really fun trying to play a little bit of a guessing game when meeting certain people, and it was awesome to actually get to shake the hands and hug and play against a couple of our regulars from Twitch, and including like we had games against Drakeos Dragoon, Emberwild, G-Hoic, Rusty Paints, my buddy Finnbog, who else? Vicarious, Gearbox. We had a ton of games against a lot of really cool people, and I actually got to sit down and chat with some really passionate individuals and for all the games that we were playing. So it was a really neat experience, and something I'm looking forward to doing again. But all those three expectations from going to the con were met, and you'll kind of get that feeling as I go through each of the kind of key moments and the key parts of the convention for me. So I hope you guys will enjoy the rest of the video. We're going to be going over the following content. We're going to be going over the narrative event, my experiences there, Iron Arena, and some of the games that I played in there. The cosplay contest that I entered. I wasn't expecting to enter it, but I did, and it was super fun. We also had the Crewmen Dinner that we did. We got all the people together from Twitch and some of our new and old friends, new friends from the convention, old friends from Twitch and Discord together, and we went out for a big dinner. It was a really great experience. P3 GrandMaster competition, going to talk about that. Our MonPoc tournament, our private Crewmen Midnight MonPoc for the Golden Crush tournament. We're going to be talking about that. We're going to be talking about the after party that we had. It wasn't really an after party, it kind of was, but it was mostly just whoever was left at the convention. When it closed down, we went back to our place and had a little soiree and MonPoc gaming. And then finally, we're going to talk about my thoughts about the convention, some things that some people mentioned to me, and we even talked about on the previous videos about improvements that we'd like to see, particularly with how games are organized and how you can find a game and get involved in some of the other stuff. And yeah, just final thoughts and comments on the convention. So this is going to be a lengthy video. Hopefully you guys will stick with me through it. in the comments below, if there's anything you particularly want to see and you want to skip over stuff, there's links, so you can click on the timestamp and it'll whoop, take you directly there. So let's jump in and we'll talk about the narrative event. So one of the big things that I wanted to do at the convention was the Stormbreak narrative event conclusion. Now, I had missed last year's, which is the one that I really wanted to do, and that was the fate of Holden, determining whether he would be a Merc or a Grimkin model. I didn't get a chance to do that because I missed it. So I really wanted to do this narrative event. So as soon as the tickets went up, I booked it. I was in for the Friday narrative league conclusion. Now, the scenario was absolutely amazing. It took place. The end of, for those of you who don't know, Stormbreak is the name of the big ship, the big Kador ship that is has risen and is flying somewhere. They haven't really chosen where it's gonna. There's a little bit of a spoiler. They don't know where it's gonna land. That's what we were determining during the event. So this big Kadorian airship hurling through the sky. Signar 1 comes up alongside of it. Boarding party gets on, and we're battling it out to protect or destroy the ship. Now, the table itself was actually split into two big tables. So you had an 8x4 table of the upper deck, 8x4 table of the lower deck, and they matched each other. So the three objectives in the center all had corresponding objectives below it. And there was also little hatches that you could shoot up and down from to the different tables. The shooting hatches for myself and the people immediately near me didn't really come into play. However, there was some stuff that took place on the upper deck that affected the lower deck, and I'll talk about that in a second. The objective was to get as many models as you could next to these three objectives, and the team with the most models near each one would score. So just to give you a quick summary and not to go over every little nitty-gritty detail, the team that I was on was the Kador team. So normally I play Kador as War Machine, but I brought Grimkin because I wanted to show off my Twisted Carnival at the convention, and I sided with Kador because there was only two other players on the team, and everyone wanted to be on the Laeli's Resistance, but also I wanted to represent the motherland in some way. So I joined them immediately as soon as they opened it up. It was like, okay, we have two Kador players, we need 8, let's do this. We actually ended up, the table itself had, of the 16 people playing, we had, I think we actually had 3 Kador, 3 Crucible Guard, myself, and what was the other person? I think they were Signar. No, they weren't Signar. I'm not sure what the final person on the other side was for. Oh yeah, he was another Grimkin player. It was 2 Grimkin, 3 Crucible Guard, and 3 Kador players. On the other side, there was a ton of Crucible Guard. I don't even know how many Crucible Guard. Signar, Grimkin, Retribution, and I think that was actually it. There might have been there was a Merc player. There was a Merc player actually on our team. Sorry, there wasn't 3 Crucible Guard. There was 2 Crucible Guard and a Merc player. I confused that one. In any case, so we the way it worked was we had 20-minute turns going back and forth. The whole team went at the same time, and basically just tried to get to those objectives. We each were given a plot twist token, which if you've watched any other narrative events in the past, lets you do something nutty that affects the game and the narrative in some way. They're super awesome, and I know for ourselves, we intend to incorporate that style of plot twist gameplay into our own narrative battle reports here on Riker's Iron YouTube. Now, I got to put onto the lower deck of the ship with my Twisted Carnival. I took the back end of the ship, and I was facing off primarily against the other Grimkin player who was to my left and the Crucible Guard player who was straight in front of me. The game went really quick. Now, they had reserved until 8 p.m. for the narrative event. We actually finished it at 2 p.m. And I'll explain what happened. So On my side, I think I was affected probably the most by a lot of the plot twists, followed by the other, basically the players who were directly on the back end of the ship. So we had, on my side, on the upper deck, we had a Kador player facing off against a Crucible Guard, and me on the lower deck facing off against a Crucible Guard as well. Now, around turn 2, what happened? So we deployed and did all that stuff and went through our turns and la 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 la. But in turn 2, I ended up moving up close to the objective and scoring a couple points. The Crucible Guard started coming in, and what I didn't realize was on their turn, the Crucible Guard in the upper part of the ship used a plot twist to coordinate with the Grimkin player, and the Grimkin player destroyed the support pillars of the big gun emplacement that was on the top of the ship, which you saw in the picture. And the Crucible Guard player also flew his unit of what are they called? Rocket men into the back turbine, lighting it on fire, causing all this chaos. So the whole back end of the ship collapsed on top of me and the Crucible Guard player. Now, it squished all of the guys who were underneath the support of the thing. However, everybody from 24 inches back were lit on fire. That's right, everything was lit on fire. However, Crucible Guard, lo and behold, immune to fire. So by turn 2, every single one of my models was on fire. When I started my turn 3, I lost almost my entire army from just the fire rolls. And then when it came around to the Crucible Guard player's turn, he just picked off all the key things that were still there. And some of them were still on fire when I started my next turn, like my Death Knell, and it got wiped out because he had poked it enough to get it down to like 2 health, and I rolled and it died. Death Knell went, everything went. Some of it was absolutely like just personally devastating. I brought this army all the way from Montreal, spent all this time painting it up, and within 40 minutes of playing into the Narrative League, actually it was about an hour in at that point, right when we were about to take a break for lunch, most of my army was gone. I had a couple models left, so some plot twists that were of note up to that point. One of the players on our team was playing Locke, so what Locke did was, because of the way that the ship collapsed, the ship started to do like a back end. It wasn't performing adequately, so it started to shift like this. And what Hungerford told us was that people will start shifting around inside the ship as the turns go on. So I took that into account for my plot twist later on, which I'll talk about soon. But one of the plot twists of notes from our side was Locke had gone to the control panel on one of the objectives and taken all of the parts key to controlling the ship. So the ship became totally out of control. No one was able to right the ship. So the battle went on. We actually took a break at that point. We took lunch. This was about just the end of turn 3, and the game was going to turn 6. So assuming we made it that far. At that point, we were also up. I believe it was 15. I don't know. I think we were up 12 points to 4 at that point. At the end of that, they started to get some more points as I dwindled and as some of the other guys started to take a lot of heavy casualties. But when we returned from lunch, I used my plot twist. So I asked Hungerford if the turbine was still working in the back. He's like, it's still working, but it's on fire and it's breaking down. And I'm like, okay, I want to do something with my Laughs and Screams Skin and Bones. I want him to have the last laugh, and I want him to put his blades into the turbine, and then as it's shredding and breaking down, he just jumps in to destroy the back engine. And so what we also found out during that listing of the ship was the back end had blown off, and actually at that moment, I forgot to mention, some of the models shifted backwards, including the Crucible Guard, and some of them fell off the back end of the ship. So some casualties were caused from that, which was really cool. So I'm like, I want to turn this up to fucking 12 on this. So that's what I did. So what happened was the ship just went boom. And so at the start of the next round, what also happened on the other turn was everyone was just like, okay, let's just kill everyone. Let's just destroy the ship. We'll see if we can salvage it afterwards. And we'll just make do. So the other team ended up blowing up one of the other turbines. So the ship not only went backwards, it started spinning. And so it was kind of doing this downward spiral. At the end of each turn, Hungerford would roll a 2d6 for falling backwards and 2d6 for left and right. So what happened was people started tipping and sliding around everywhere. It was absolutely bananas. At the end of the game, though, one of the Lely's Resistance players ended up blowing up one of the bombs, one of the bomb canisters right in the center. And what the player on our team did, because he knew that in the narrative Magnus was still on the ship, he wanted to save Magnus. He wanted to ensure that in the fluff he would live through this, because he was afraid that they were going to kill him off. So he used his plot twist token that when the bomb went off, he used it to leave the ship. He just like parachuted away. So that was his plot twist, was he just used it. It was absolutely brilliant. I love it. And I love that it affected the fluff for that particular thing. It was amazing. I had so much fun with that. I got almost tabled. I had 2 models left at the end. I had I had 2 piggybacks left, and I actually wasn't the one who got tabled. One of the Crucible Guard player who blew up the back end of the ship, he got tabled, and he got an award for it because he's the first person ever in the narrative league, or in the narrative event conclusions, to be tabled. But anyway, so the story went on. We were still battling it out, really nitty gritty. I was being whittled down. I had 2 guys left, and we got to about turn 5 when Hungerford said, "Okay, guys, like the Kidorian ship defenders are up." I think we were up 16-12 at that point, and most of the upper deck was absolutely wiped. Like the guys on the upper deck absolutely cleaned house. And we were starting to, I was absolutely wiped out from that fire collapse, but the rest of the team was doing amazing at picking off people and doing a really good job at whittling everyone down. So eventually we took the win. Kador won that awesome win for us. The narrative event was absolutely a blast. Even when I was getting decimated, it was still really fun. I was a little upset to basically be useless by turn 3 and having to play the rest of my turn 3 and 4 with like only a couple models, but it was still really fun, especially coordinating with my team, because they were trying to figure out what they were going to use their plot twists on. So we were like in like whispers in the corner during lunch, and it was a fun event. It was something that I really was looking forward to, and it didn't disappoint. It actually ended really early, so that was kind of good. It ended around 2 p.m.-ish, and it let me kind of relax a little bit and get some Iron Arena games in, which we'll talk about after. So the narrative event concluded with Kador winning. Hungerford said that Magnus lives in the fluff. He's parachuted off the thing, so regardless of what happened in the second event on Saturday, Magnus is going to live. The ship, they don't know where it was heading, but it crashed somewhere on its way to, I believe he said between Lael and Corvus. I'm not sure. But there's 2 things that they don't know yet. Where it crashed, and whether the ship is going to be salvageable by Kador to be rebuilt or repurposed as something else. So those are the 2 kind of final things for our narrative. I didn't see anything about the other group's narrative. I didn't hear anything about it from anybody else at the convention, so I'm not sure what happened during that event. But what they do is they'll take the coolest parts of both narratives and they'll conclude the story for that. And I hope that comes out soon, because I really want to know what happened in that, because I just had such a blast doing it, and it really set home my love and desire to play more narrative battles and narrative scenarios, because they add a certain quality to the game and a certain spice, if you will, or maybe lack of spice, I'm not really sure. But to me, they add a certain balancing and a certain fun factor that makes it so even when you're losing, you're still having a crazy fun time. Where I don't get that in Steamroller. Steamroller is very nitty-gritty. And so one of the things that I kind of want to announce here on YouTube, we already talked about it during our Streamiversary in May, but like as an official, I hope you guys come back. We're going to be doing a lot of narrative and different style of battle reports for YouTube. I'm not a big competitive player, so Steamroller doesn't really interest me too much. I will be doing a Steamroller this year. It's my goal to get back into doing Steamrollers, but in terms of focus for the stream, I won't bring anything to the table outside of what you can find on other people's battle report channels. They focus a lot on the Steamroller stuff and practicing Steamroller and analyzing the outcomes of those games. I want to focus on purely the narrative, the fun, and the customizables. So we're going to be doing a lot of series with that for all the games that we're supporting, but specifically Privateer Press stuff. We're going to be doing MonPoc campaign. We're going to be doing a series I'm calling 25 to Hit. So it's games of War Machine at 25 points, and the idea there is to get newer people and veterans alike comfortable with playing at lower points, and also understanding that you can play the game at 25 points. And we're also going to be doing some fun narrative scenarios and stuff, both from the old No Quarter Primes leading up into the narrative events, whatever kind of tickles our fancy. And you'll be able to catch a live version of each of those on our Twitch page, and we'll also be doing a pre-recorded version for the YouTube. So we're going to get two kind of outcomes from that, two experiences, and I really hope that you guys will be back for that in the future. And just some final notes. The Narrative League, my thoughts were, I liked that it happened really quick. The battle was brutal and gritty. It didn't drag on. I was a little worried that it would go super late and that I would miss out on doing a lot of stuff, and I really appreciated that it was a really fast-paced, nitty-gritty, brutal game. And I want to thank Will Hungerford for putting it on. He was a really good GM for that game, and had a lot of cool little story nuggets to add in there, some descriptive things that were happening. And Doug Seacat for hanging out and just chatting about lore and fluff that might be taking place, or some ideas and things. He didn't really spoil anything per se about what's coming from the narrative stuff. I'm not even sure if he's going to be the one involved in writing it or overseeing it, but he was there nonetheless, hanging out and chatting with us and telling us his thoughts so far on what's happening. And it was a real treat and a real pleasure. And I hope I get to maybe experience more of that stuff in the future. So ladies and gents, boys and girls, we're going to talk about the Iron Arena next. So for those of you who've never been to a convention with Privateer Press in it, they have a thing called the Iron Arena, and it's basically 24 hours, 3 days a week, open for all your gaming needs of Privateer Press products. One of the things that is really cool about it is when you play games, you report the games and you earn skulls, which let you buy little tokens and products and other cool little nuggets from their Iron Arena store. So there's everything in there, from like foil cards from MonPoc all the way up to collector busts and like insane things like that. That takes like a lot of gaming, like 3 days of gaming to get one of those. But it's a pretty cool little system, and it lets them clean out a couple of their maybe their overprinted things or stuff that's lying around, and it's kind of neat for the players to get a hold of, like, tokens and badges and medals and other things, and it's a really cool little system. One of the things about the Iron Arena that was strange when we arrived was they said that MonPoc doesn't count for the Iron Arena. So most of Friday, they didn't have any scoring or anything for Monster Apocalypse, so a lot of people were kind of miffed about that. Later on, they opened it up and had a scoring system for it, so people recorded and reported their stuff after, so that was okay. But it was just kind of like, MonPoc's pretty big right now, it should be there. One of the things with Iron Arena that I really wanted to do, and I got a ton of it in, was I wanted to play games against everybody from the Twitch stream who was there. So I managed to do it. I managed to get a game in with everybody who I knew from the stream, either in War Machine and Hordes or Monster Apocalypse. I didn't get a chance to do Company of Iron with Emberwild, which I still feel really bad about, and we'll try to make that up. But I'll be releasing all of our custom stuff for our Company of Iron things on Reddit, on the Discord, on the Facebook page, on our new Patreon page, and all that stuff. So you guys can check that out at later days. I'll post some links in the comments as it goes up if you're interested in our custom The Brothers Scorn narrative campaign for Company of Iron. So I had some really good games. Right after the narrative event, I ended up jumping back to my room, taking a little bit of a break, food break again, because I didn't know when I would eat next. And then jumped back downstairs and got a game in. My first Iron Arena game in was with G. Hoek, the legendary, the great G. Hoek. Super fun guy to play against. We played on the narrative table for the Grimkin. So if you saw that Grimkin battle table from a couple of years back with the for the finals, they had that there. They had a whole slew of tables. Like the Iron Arena was covered in just awesome terrain and awesome tables everywhere. I was taking pictures and trying to figure out how they made it. It was so wicked to see these really hefty 3D terrain Iron Arena battles going on, and that's something that I feel like the game misses out on, especially at a tournament setting. And I understand for a tournament setting it makes sense. Easier to set up with the flat terrain, easier to make sure everything is right on par. But if you're playing in a casual setting, you're playing with your friends, you're playing in what in my opinion represents the War Machine universe a lot more, is the narrative stuff, is the 3D terrain, is these environments that you get sucked into as you're battling it out with your faction against whoever you're facing off against. So I was so stoked to get my games on all these tables. I was trying to get as many games. I didn't get as many as I wanted to, but G. Hoek, I went up against him, against his Crucible Guard with my Grimkin on the Grimkin table. I was so excited. I tried my base list, the one that I've played Bump in the Nights. I've only been playing Bump in the Night since Grimkin came out, and so I've gotten used to kind of playing it a bit, but I'm still not 100% on positioning for Death Knell optimization. So that was something that I wanted to practice at the convention, and towards the end, I actually started to figure it out a bit more. But one of the cool things about that battle, about that table, was the scenario. So the scenario had a swap feats. So he got my Arcana, I got his feat, and then you could get these little fruit tokens from the trees on the table. They were called spicy fruits, and you could use them to basically use them as focus and fury to pay for spells and do all this nutty stuff. So I post up a picture here of the scenario. So if you guys want to use it yourself, I took a picture of all the cool scenarios that we played. So we dove right in. The game was over really quick. I felt like I started to find my stride towards the end of the game, picking my opponents. My ambush came off really well. His ambush destroyed my piggybacks. He ambushed me with Hutchuk and just executed them. Trancers. This is something I learned from the narrative event and from playing G. Hoek. Trancers are the most ridiculous model in the game, or in that faction, I should say. They do so much for in my opinion, so little of a cost. They are so worth the points, and they are scary. You leave them alone, they're going to screw you over. You go to attack them, they're going to screw you over. So you just get it over with. You just go for them. I was a victim of them in the narrative and in G. Hoek's game, and it was decimating, like absolutely decimating. Towards the end of the match, though, as I said, I started to find my stride and figure out where I wanted to go, but we were playing on clock 2 with an extra 15 minutes because of chatting and just hanging out and people coming up and stuff. So we went a little bit over. I think we both clocked at some point, pretty close to each other. But in the end, G. Hoek took home the win with some just destroying all my guys. I couldn't get to his dudes. I was carving my way through. I killed off his interceptor. I killed off a couple of troops. I killed off a couple of his solos and his key pieces, but I just couldn't get close enough to his caster to take him out. I even used his feet against him at one point, and it was a fruitful turn. But it was just too much. I did start to find my place though with the Grimkin a little bit more, because I hadn't played in a couple weeks, and even just a couple weeks and a couple months of not consistent gaming really brings you down a bit, brings you down to par or below par for understanding how to play your guys. And Grimkin's a weird, finicky faction. It's a bizarre mix of mind games and strategy at the same time, and keeping track of all the stuff that happens in all the phases. They're the only faction I play that has like a million things to do in the maintenance phase, a million things to do in the control phase, and then you activate. Eats up a lot of time on the clock too, so it's one you got to get used to, and it's the Jihoic game really started to get me to that point. So thank you, the great Jihoic, for that game. It was really fun, and it was super casual and relaxed. It was a fun, exciting loss. So the second game I ended up playing was against the mighty Drakios Dragoon, who he himself has just started streaming on Twitch, so you can follow him at this link here. Whoop! Twitch.tv/Drakios the Dragoon. So Drakios is a big troll player. He's a big troll fan. He has mountains of trolls, literally mountains. And we faced off in the city of Corvus. So there was a narrative table I wanted to get a game on. It was a bridge leading into Corvus with a huge walkway and a side area with a train track and a river underneath. It was just a beautiful table, absolutely beautiful. And this was another narrative scenario. One player is the attacker, one player is defender, and the attacker has to get a model to the back table edge of the defender, and the defender has to stop them. So, I was playing Grimkin, I went on defense, he went on offense. He dropped a Mountain King, a Glacier King, a Mauler, Ragnar, and some other little odds and ends. I don't really remember the full list, but it was, I would just, facing off the Mountain King alone is a pain in the ass, but facing both of the Colossals at once was absolutely insane. So my strategy was to try and gum them up and prevent them from reaching the back edge by turn 5. Now, I was doing really well with that at first. I was doing really well. Like turn 3 came around and I was like, I think I can pull this off. But I screwed up my positioning towards the end. He just kept bringing this mountain of meat in and just like, it was crazy. It was absolutely terrifying. I did 1 point of damage to the Mountain King with my with my Glimmer Imp. I scooped down his eyeball and blinded him for a turn. And I ended up bringing my guys around the side and starting to, I wanted to try and sweep them from the side with a few models like my Trapperkin, my Gorehound, and Longfellow. That was my plan, to go around and try and pick off his caster in case my blockade didn't work. That plan was going okay until I positioned I for some reason retreated my Warlock and my guys off to the side, allowing the Mountain King to trample through my units close enough to the back edge that I couldn't get in front of him to reposition and block him off. So it was a really gritty game. We actually started that game at midnight. At midnight on Friday. It was crazy. And we finished it around 2 a.m. or so. So I was tired and totally out of it. We were both like what's happening towards the end of the game. But it was a really fun match, and Drakios was a super fun player to play against. He also gave me a sweet little, later on in the con, he gave me a silver keychain with a little pirate skull and crossbones. It's awesome, so thank you for that, dude. Much appreciated. And I look forward to meeting and playing you again, either at a convention or maybe a trip out there to BC at some point. So after Friday's sleepage and waking up early in the morning, I went immediately downstairs to get some more Iron Arena games in, because later that day I wanted to hand in my P3 competition piece. So, and I had to have them in before 6 p.m. So what I did was I ran up to Emberwild. Emberwild and I had the game scheduled. We're like, let's do this, blah, 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 blah. We laid down, and it was an absolute massacre against me. But this game was where I found my stride with Grimkin. I started to get into the groove of my Hollow Men, feeding the Death Knell along with my Dreadrots, making sure that they were close enough, and also returning my Hollow Men back when they killed one of the enemy troops. So I started to find my groove with that and understand my positioning a little bit better. And one of the things that I took away was always keep the death knell center army. That is wherever your army is positioned, your bulk, center it with the troops and move them up. Now, positioning before that and after that is a whole other story. I still have issues with blocking in my beasts too much with it, so I got to figure out a way to kind of appease that. Maybe put the death knell behind them and move them up. I don't know. I have to play a couple more games and really get comfortable with it. But back to the actual game, we didn't get a chance to play on a narrative table because they were all booked up. Like we were down there at like 9 in the morning or something, and everybody was playing already. So we took one of the steamroller objectives games, and we just ran with that on one of this beautiful table with all these like trees and ruins and stuff. It was a really nice table. So it was Ret versus Grimkin, and I love playing against Rare Retribution. It's usually a back and forth game with any army that I'm playing with. It's always like there's always a lot going on and a lot of fun. Like, oh, it took down some troops. Oh, it took down a beast. It's a lot of. It goes usually a long time for me. So this game actually ended really quick, and it was something on my part that I'm not experienced with. So this was a first experience, and it was brutal. So we deployed and went off, and back and forth for a bit, shooting and consuming. And I got to use the Maladay Man for the first time. And he was absolutely so fun to play. Like him charging this monkey, going into the fray and killing a guy. It's just like, and then annoying everybody else around it with his bite. -2 to attacks near him was awesome. It was just like a fun little model to play. I look forward to using that a lot more on my list. And this was actually the list that I think I'm going to play with a lot more because it had a bit more variety of stuff. I like the way it played out. So. I'll post up my list there for you to look at. So this is the list that I used, and I really enjoyed playing it. I mean, I'm not sure tournament-wise whether it would do any good, but it was fun to play nonetheless, and it was one that I highly recommend for you guys to try if you do play Grimkin. Yeah. So, anyways, so the game was going back and forth, and I had never played against Iris before. In Mark III. So Mark II I played against her, and Mark III I haven't played against her yet. So what I didn't realize was that in Mark II she could only disrupt focus, but she does Fury in Mark III, and I had no idea. So she basically just walked up through everything and took a pot shot at my caster. My caster was hit, lost all his focus, lost all of his save Fury for transfers, and then Ember Wild just poked him to death. By like turn 3, I was dead. No, I think it was the start of turn 4. I was gone. And it was a really quick game. It was a lesson learned. Fear Iris, and pick her off really quick if you can. But that's War Machine. War Machine is a lot of gotcha moments and really surprises. And I like playing against. I like not going through and reading everybody's cards when they. When they bring them to the table, especially stuff I don't really know. I might read the caster just to kind of understand what the caster does. But like when it comes to all the units and stuff, I like that surprise. It's a little internal head narrative where my army's running into these guys for the first time. They don't know what they do, and so you spring those traps. You almost tell your own story, And I really enjoyed that. So Amber Wild, thank you for teaching me a lesson in the ways of getting screwed by an elf. And it was a really fun game, so thank you for that. It was enjoyable and eye-opening, to say the least. I did feel a little. I have to admit, I did feel a little like, am I actually good at Grimkin? Should I bother still continuing playing Grimkin after that game? Because at this point I was getting stomped all weekend. Like I barely had any time to actually play the faction. Most of my guys were eliminated from the table before I got a chance to do anything. Maybe I'm not a good Grimkin player. Maybe I need more practice. I don't know. I think I just need more practice. And the next game I actually felt like I found my stride with the faction and with my list and positioning and other things. So again, Amber Wild, thank you for that. And I hope we get to hook up again at some point. So my final game in Iron Arena was with my buddy Finnbog, who I went to the convention with. He was also playing Retribution, and we grabbed a table and we did Mangled Metal, so destroy all the beasts or the caster. Beast/Jax or the caster. And we both had pretty even amount of beasts and Jax. I think we each had 4 or 5 Jax/beasts, so it was a pretty cool little matchup. This match I actually figured out my positioning a little bit better. I run out in front with my Dreadrots in front of my Death Knell. I kept my 2 heavy beasts kind of on the side behind there with my Hollow Man on the one side, because he positioned his Weapon Master Swordsman on the one, and I wanted to pick them off before they came in and rejuvenate my losses as he was bringing guys in. And that worked out pretty well, with the Malady Man on the one side giving desperate pace to the Dreadrots. They got him up the field really quick, took position, and was waiting for him to get a little bit closer to charge. The Monkey went out there, did his thing, I loved it. But I ended up gumming up his guys and not being able to get into me fully really early on. And he kept, we played with an acid pool right in the center of the table, and I used it to my advantage because I knew if he went through there, his guys would die. So what I did was I positioned my Grimkin alongside, and then I used my Heretic's Firewall and just kept a firewall out in front far enough away so that he couldn't hit me. And if he wanted to hit me, he'd have to come through the fire and take the damage. So it was a really fun game of bringing my guys back, trying to whittle him down, and we got to a point where I was whittling him down and gaining too much back that it was just like we should just call it. It was a really fun match. Again, I love playing against Retribution because it's that back and forth against them. And, it's just a really great matchup that I love playing against. So if you guys are rep players and you see me at a convention, please hook up with me for a game. We'll throw down and we'll have lots of fun. Finbog, thank you for that game. And I know it was a quick game. I know it was a hard game, but it was a game that let me kind of finalize and get comfortable with the Grimkin. So it was something that rejuvenated my lust to play them, and also the list that I had was really fun. So I'm happy I found a list that I want to roll with. So all in all, the Iron Arena was really, really fun. At this point, I actually had to dash away because I had the Cosplay Contest coming up, and I had to do the P3 painting competition entries. I had to go upstairs and drop off all my stuff. And so that's what I did, and we'll talk about that in the next section. So Saturday was jam-packed. We finished off the Iron Arena stuff, and the next thing that we did on Saturday was the Cosplay Contest. Now, I had never entered a cosplay contest before. I didn't know what to expect. I've done Halloween competitions and things, and occasionally win them, but I'm not comfortable with making my own costumes and sewing and like warping, foam and stuff like that into things. So my skills in that are limited, but what I like to do is I like to come up with an idea and then go to thrift stores, go to costume shops, hardware stores, anything I can find to build or put together the pieces that I picture in my head that this character would wear. I also like to try and build a little more real world stuff and use that stuff. I know it doesn't really fit the aesthetic of War Machine and Hordes, but for regular costumes it turns out pretty fine. So the idea behind my costume was I wanted to do the Dread Pirate Rotten. So I wanted to have a Grimkin Dreadrot that was a pirate, that was this character that sails the seas and finds these wicked individuals on the high seas to Shanghai into his crew. So or press gang into his crew, and I really wanted him to be larger than life and over the top. What I didn't realize was actually the costume I had kind of done was almost like a Ragman costume. Someone pointed that out later, and I probably should have done just Ragman, but I didn't even realize it. Yeah, so my costume was my big pirate hat, my pumpkin mask that I had purchased a year or two ago. It opens and closes. I put a little like severed finger in his mouth, kind of like he sucks on or smokes fingers. The burlap sack. So in the burlap sack, I actually wrapped a pillow from the hotel room in my black shirt so that it would just like bulk out and just not be white inside. I got my leather jacket that I've had for a decade or more now. G-Hoic actually bought me some pirate stuff, which I paid him back for, and used it all on my costume. I brought my work boots. I had black pants, suspenders, and my Riker's Iron t-shirt on underneath it. And I had a lot of fun because it was something I like dressing up in costumes. I like doing that stuff, but I'm horrible at making them. So this is kind of like my way to cosplay. If you can call it cosplay, I'm not sure like what the definition of what that would be, but yeah. So I didn't know what to expect. I went down to the convention. People were looking at me weird. I wasn't sure if I was early or not. I found people in front of the stage. I was actually thought there'd be more people in the costume contest, but there wasn't actually. There was some really passionate people. There was 3 other contestants. One of the costumes was actually a paired costume. I'll post up everybody's Instagrams and Twitch and stuff like that, names here. So it was a really weird experience because I hadn't done anything like that before, and when I got to the stage, there was the other contestants, and the guy who was organizing it was super energetic. He came up and was like, "Hey, you're," and I'm like, "Yeah, oh god," and he's like, "You're gonna be first on the stage," and I'm like, "Can't." In my head, I'm like, "Can't someone else who's done this before go first?" But it was fine. I just went on and put on a show and did my usual being the weird, crazy self and yarring and shooting off the pistol and try to build my character a little bit, build maybe even get the audience going. I knew I was not gonna place very well. Just seeing other people's like actually made costumes, I was like, wow. So I went up, did my thing. The Grim King couple went up, did their thing. Zombie Assassin, who dressed up as Iona, did the thing, and Twisted Creations, she dressed up as Val. So she did her thing, and it was an applause-meter kind of stuff. It was super fun. We all got to do like a little like what inspired your costume and stuff. And I mostly just wanted a pirate Grimkin model, so I'm hoping Privateer Press is like, ooh, that's kind of cool, and makes a mini crate or something. I don't know. Wink. Oh, wink. But yeah, so I took 4th place, which was expected. I wasn't expecting to place, but I'm just happy that I got some applause and some like, ooh, good, and I had some pictures and things. 3rd place was the other Grimkin couple, the couple who did the Grimkin thing. Iona took 2nd place, and Val took 1st place, which was expected. That was a really awesome costume. Next level stuff from these people, and I'm happy to see some. I follow a lot of cosplayers and stuff on Twitch. On Twitch, on Instagram, on Twitter, and I never see anything from War Machine. I see a lot of stuff from like 40K appearing now and other things like that, even Infinity in some cases. But War Machine has such a great costume set and such an amazing amount of characters. I really hope that one day it becomes kind of like that's a cool game and a cool system to do some more costumes with. And it really starts here with these hardcore fans who are doing it all already. So I'm happy to see that, and I really hope to see more of that in the future. Yes, I don't really have much else to say about the cosplay contest. It was a fun experience. I ended up getting a $25 gift card, which I used in the store, and got my Ares mothership from Monster Apocalypse. That was a nice surprise. I wasn't expecting anything like that. So thank you, Privateer Press, and congrats to the winner, 1st and 2nd place and 3rd, and all the people who did a really good job there. So you guys did awesome work, and if I ever want to do that again, I know I'm gonna have to step up. So one of the big things at the convention that I was looking forward to the most, and honestly it did not disappoint me at all, was our big Crewmen Dinner. So we had been talking about it for weeks, organizing a dinner to Mox's Boarding House, which is a combination restaurant / gaming store, where if you go there, you can get a discount on the game that you're playing at the table. So, which is a really cool concept. It was when it was pitched to me, I was like, oh, that's kind of cool. I've never seen it or heard anything like that. In Canada, we don't have stuff like that. That stuff never works out. So it was nice to see that thriving in Bellevue. Yeah, so the Crewmen Dinner, we got everybody together from Twitch, and we also, through the people of Twitch and through just hanging out at the convention, we ended up gathering up a couple new crewmen and a couple new friends for our little trip to Mox's. So that was awesome. Like that was one thing that I'm so happy about that worked out, and I had just so much fun chatting and talking and drinking and just hanging out with people and having a night of it. And the Crewmen Dinner was one of my favorite things that we did, and one I want to, every time I go to a convention, I want to make sure that we have that tradition, that we do it every single time, is our Riker's Iron crewmen hangout. Mox's boarding house, as I said, was a great experience. They had some neat beers on tap, which apparently change constantly. Their food was really good, a little pricey, but I understand it. It's Bellevue. It's also the novelty of the place, and it was just really fun. We did have to wait 45 minutes though for a table, which, given it was convention season for this stuff, I understand that, so I can't really fault them for that. It was really close to the thing too. We Ubered / carpooled, and just thank you everybody who came out to that. It really meant a lot that there was people who were actually wanting to come to that and hang out with us and chat and just have a good time and share drinks and stories and gaming experiences and laughs, and it was definitely my favorite part. And our group photo at the end, right? I love it. I might actually get it printed off and framed for the nerd room, so you guys might see yourself in the background. And we'll try to do that every year that we go to a convention, and hopefully we'll see you there. Speaking of which, our next convention might be Captain Con. I'm working on the logistics of that, cost-wise and travel-wise. So we might see you there at Captain Con. It's closest to me. I can actually drive there and don't have to pay for flights, which would be significantly cheaper. And I can split a hotel room with countless dozens of people in my area that go to it. And maybe we'll catch you guys there for our next Crewmen Dinner. So one of the other things that we planned for Lock and Load was our private MonPoc tournament that we called Midnight MonPoc. It hadn't started off as Midnight MonPoc, but after the dinner, when we got back, we were like, we got to do this MonPoc tournament. Let's do it right now. So we started at midnight. We were already kind of, a little tipsy, and we brought more beer down into the convention center, and we went nuts. So I'm at the time of this recording, I haven't posted it up yet, but there's a post on monpoc.net of the tournament and some of my ideas and pictures and thoughts and stuff, including the setup of the game. I'll go over the setup here too, but you can check out the full post on monpoc.net, and you'll see my blog post there for our Midnight MonPoc Golden Crush tournament, the first ever. So one of the traditions that I kind of want to build going to conventions and other things like that is, if we have enough crewmen for at least a 6-man tournament, we're going to do a Golden Crush MonPoc tournament. So this one was super fun. We had a lot of people from the stream. Actually, we had all the people from the stream because it was private. And we also, what I didn't realize was, going into this tournament, we were going to be facing off against Gearbox, who took first place in the 2-monster tournament just hours beforehand, who also faced off in the finals against Vicarious, aka Mike Ireland, who is also in the tournament, who from 2 hours to 4 or 5 hours beforehand. Crazy, absolutely crazy. So the tournament itself was a semi-customized format for the game. So we did what you do is you pick 3 monsters. You're locked into those 3 monsters throughout the entire event. But each match you choose 2 monsters. The order of the chosen monsters is, first player gets to choose their monster first, second player chooses their first monster, and then the first player chooses second player chooses second. Buildings are locked in, so all the buildings you choose are locked in throughout the entire event. Units are a pool of 25, and you can make any pool you want of 20 out of those 25 throughout the event as well. So it's a little bit of a flexible format. It's a little bit locked in too, so we tried that out. Each match at the end, the winner chooses or keeps track of their health points. If you time out, let's say you play till clock, obviously the person who wins still tracks their remaining health on their monsters, but also the loser does too, just in case. So that's the basic format. We randomized who played first, and it was a doozy. So the first match I played against was actually against Vicarious. I hadn't played in months, so when I jumped into this, I was like, I'm going to get stomped so bad. So my goal was to mostly learn from what he's doing. So, and I did learn, actually. I learned how to use stepping a little bit better. He was really good at using his Ares mothership to step backwards and reposition and get up in places that I wasn't expecting. He used his units really well, and his power base was set up really quick and really effectively. And my positioning and power base has always been my rocky points. We started last and finished first, which I thought was kind of funny. But it was a fun game nonetheless. We had a lot of really good moments. He taught me a thing or two about, like I said, power base setup and stepping, so that was a really valuable experience and something I took forward into my future games. Gearbox was facing off against Jehoic, who ended up winning that game, and Emberwild faced off against Rusty Paints, who Emberwild ended up winning his game. By this point, we'd been drinking and doing a lot of crazy stuff. When we switched to the next game, Jehoic spilled all of his beer all over his cards, so all of his cards were like soaked in like sticky, smelly beer for the rest of the the night. And we were raring to go. Like, we were really energized at this point, which I mentioned this because of the end of round 2. So round 2 started. I ended up facing off against Rusty Paints. Gearbox had a rematch with Vicarious. Emberwild faced off against Jehoic. Sorry, Emberwild faced Rusty Paints last time, and he ended up winning. Now he's facing off against Jehoic. Sorry about that. Yeah, so this game, I wasn't sure what to expect because I'd never played on Isle of Annihilation, and Rusty was also kind of new to the game, and I've only really played maybe 15 games in total since the game came out. And I only play against my wife, so it was only the one opponent. So I wasn't sure what to expect with this. And it was a brutal game. Like, we were weirdly positioned. He was playing most all pedestrian monsters with pterosaurs. So I knew I could use that to my advantage a bit. But due to like just not paying attention to where my guys were lined up and things like being able to be tossed into multiple hazards and multiple buildings, I screwed up some of my things. I missed some of my attacks. He missed some of his, and it was just a back and forth of like these monsters all mashed together, like trying to. It was a really strange game. I think we ended up going right until the last clock thing. I think I clocked out. I can't remember the exact end of that, but anyways, no, I ended up losing both of my monsters right at the end, and Rusty's Armadax and Terracon were down in hyper form. But it was a really fun match. I learned a thing or two about Isle of Annihilation. It's aptly named. And pay attention to my positioning, especially with like weird vectors and stuff, like where the guys can line up and be tossed to. Standing above the table helps that. I was always sitting down, so I kind of lost some of that, and I didn't take steps to stand up and top-down view a bit more. But that was on me. That was my mistake, and I screwed up my power base setup. I really screwed it up. I'm still haven't found my place yet. I have now, but yet at this point, haven't found my place on how to build it successfully, which I learned later on. So I ended up losing to Rusty. Vicarious ended up winning against Gearbox in their rematch, and Emberwild versus Jehoic. Emberwild won that one. So at the end of the round 2, we were exhausted. It was like 3 a.m. and everybody had been drinking a lot. We spilled beer. We spilled beer a couple times. Getting a little rowdy, so we were like, you know what, let's call it. We'll do the dev chat tomorrow, and then we'll come back and we'll finish round 3. So we did just that. We went to bed, woke up early. We did a bunch of stuff in the morning. I went to check my P3 entry, which I'll talk about after this video or after this section. We did the dev chat. I had to leave halfway through the dev chat, like I said, to go get my P3 entry and go get it judged and analyzed. But after we did the dev chat, which was awesome, by the way, Oz Gave away a lot of stuff. You can find on Reddit the big spoiler page that Dragon Pup put together. We started round 3. So round 3 started around noon. So we kind of renamed the tournament at that point to Midnight MonPoc continued at noon. And so round 3 was winner's bracket, medium bracket, loser's bracket. So both me and G Hoek had lost all of our games together, so we were determining who takes home the wooden spoon, what Drakeos would call it. The middle bracket, which was Gearbox versus Emberwild. Gearbox versus Rusty, who each had a win each. And then the winner's bracket, which both had wins attached to them. So it was a final like showdown kind of thing. My game with G Hoek actually went to clock. We played through the clock. We didn't play until the clock ended. We probably should have. I don't know. Like our game lasted the longest. Everybody else's game was over in like probably 30 minutes. Our game lasted till almost both of us clocked, and we actually started first during that. During that, so it was a really brutal game. It went back and forth a lot. We were both down in hyper form. Eventually, I got down to a point where both of my monsters were pretty close to dead, and we just called it. I didn't want to continue to play because the other guys were waiting, and there was some stuff going on we wanted to do. And I was already pretty low, and G Hoek still had one of his guys just entering hyper form. He had clocked out a couple turns beforehand, but again, we played through until the end, and G Hoek ended up winning against me with his Destroyer list, which was really fun to play against. It was the classic list that I play against a lot with Sarah, so it was a nice little end to the convention, the Cthulhu versus and Grogadra versus my DX and Zor Maxim. Vicarious ended up winning against Emberwild, so he took home first place in the tournament, even with the health stuff, because there was a tie at one point. And Gearbox. So the winner's bracket was first place was Vicarious, second place Emberwild, third place Gearbox, fourth place Grusty Paints. G Hoek took fifth place, and I actually took last. I did very poorly, but I had a lot of fun because that's one thing I like about MonPoc. Even when you're losing and getting your monster smashed in, it's super fun to watch. And you're like, oh man, because I'm missing a couple of key throws. I missed one of the body slams that might have turned the game, But G Hoek and I both played good screen game. I finally started to find my stride with building the power base, learning from my past games, and getting my screening a little bit better. So anyways, the prizes that we gave away. Privateer Press gave us some stuff, and I purchased some stuff, and we gave away prizes to the first 4 people for blister packs. So congratulations, Vicarious, who took home the first ever Golden Crush Cup at Lock and Load of 2019. Thank you for everybody who participated in the tournament itself, and congratulations to everybody who did take home some prizes, and everybody who learned a little bit. I really had a lot of fun playing this tournament, and I learned a lot from playing it because I got to play a variety of factions, a variety of opponents from all over the place, and got to see different strategies from different people. It was something that I want to continue to do. Anytime we go to a convention and there's at least 6 people who are going to be interested in doing it with us, we'll try to host a Golden Crush Cup tournament. And hopefully we'll get to catch some of you guys the next one. I don't know, again, we might be at Captain Con, we might be a Lock and Load a year or 2 from now. But it was a really great thing. I love organizing that stuff. I love organizing little events and fun things that there's not the pressure, there's not that super high pressure of, oh, I need to win this. This is it. This is the tournament. And MonPoc lets you kind of, even at its most competitive, is still pretty baby la-la in comparison to playing War Machine tournaments. There is a lot to the game. It's very nice. It's clean. But like I said, even when you're losing, you're having a ton of fun. And thank you everybody who really wanted to participate and played with us into 3 a.m. during that. I had so much fun in this thing, and it was one of the highlights of my trip was hosting this tournament and getting to give you guys some stuff to take home and paint up and see it on the Discord and all that. So thank you guys once again. It was a blast, and I look forward to doing another one at our next convention. So one of the biggest things and obvious things that I went to Lock and Load for was the painting competition. I do a mountain of painting on Twitch. We've been painting on Twitch for 2 years now, approaching almost coming up on our 3rd year. We're starting our 3rd year this year. And I really wanted to see where I stood in terms of painting competition and things I need to improve on. So I'd never, I've never entered a painting competition. I've hosted them at some of the events that I've done. I'm not usually the one voting during the painting competitions. It's usually I host an event and there's one there and people vote for it, for their favorite choice. So this was a chance for me to kind of see where I am and set the bar so I can know where I need to go. And I got bronze, which was awesome. I entered in my battle group for the Twisted Carnival, which consisted of my Jester King Heretic model, my Strong Beast Cage Rager, my Gore Show the Performing Hound Gorehound, and my Skin and Moans Laughs and Screams. So it was a 4-model kind of piece. I didn't do a display base, which looking back I probably should have, but they were also my tabletop models that I kind of was playing with the tabletop but weren't painted for tabletop. They were painted more for this competition. I did have to do a bit of repair before I entered the competition. So on Sunday after, on Saturday after I finished my last game of in the Iron Arena, I ran back to my room, painted for about an hour to just touch up some chips and things that I saw, and handed in my competition piece. So when I woke up on Sunday morning, it was like Christmas. I ran to the painting place to see what the judging was, and I wasn't disappointed. I got bronze, and I'm really happy about that. It was my first painting competition, and from that bronze, I now know where I stand. So the cool thing about the Privateer Press painting competitions is they award based on where they feel you hit the benchmarks. So there's gold, silver, bronze, silver, gold, and then the big GrandMaster golden skull. So knowing where I stood and knowing where I stand was something I really wanted to get out of it, and I did. I got a bronze. I sat down with Jordan for about 30 minutes after I went to pick up my pieces, and we went over every single thing that I entered. So I also entered in some solos. They didn't place, but I mostly put them in to just have more models in the case and to show off more of my stuff. But my battle group was what I really focused on, and he gave me a lot of really great advice. And one of the things I knew that I have to work on is my contrast and my basically the takeaway, the overall theme that he gave me for all of my pieces was go one step higher on highlights, go darker with the shades. So my normal step is, for tabletop models, is I do my base coat, I do a shade, an extreme shade, mid-tone, highlight, extreme highlight. Now I'm going to be adding in, as practice, one step above that to really push my comfort zone, because I'm not comfortable with that. I don't want it to always look like it's covered in white. And I told him that, and he's like, you don't always have to do white. You can do just a brighter color up on the spectrum. So, and that's something I only just started experimenting with. If you see me paint Defender X, he was one of those experiments. With my MonPoc guard models, they're the ones that I've been trying to push a little bit further. I do a little bit extra more steps. So on the ones for the battle group that I did, I have my mid-tone, I have 2 shades and an extreme shade, and then 2 highlights and an extreme highlight. He wants me to go another step further, so I'm going to try to push that to the limit on my future things. And that's something that I always feel like I have been. One of the advice that I was given actually by Drakios was, if you think you're done, go one step further. So I have been doing that, but I need to go one step further beyond that. And that's my painting goal for the next thing. Next time I go to a lock and load, I want to see if I can get a silver. That is my next benchmark. That is my next step. So if I can use all the tips that Jordan gave me, so that was the primary theme. So the other theme and what he brought up was focus. He said my models were very, very attractive. They were very fun to look at, but he didn't know where to look at. So there was no focus point of the model. And so that's also what I got to work on. And that's where he said that I could use the highlights and the shading to build up that focus, to build up that area that I should be looking at when I'm looking at the piece. And it was super helpful tips. Like, I have a whole page of stuff, but those are the core takeaways that really stood out and really were the themes of what he gave for advice. And passing it on to you guys. So if you guys want to enter in, you can have a little bit of insider stuff. So yeah, so that's my goal moving forward. I'm gonna practice a bit on some units and things, like try to push myself out of that comfort zone of leaving it that slightly darker than light. I'm gonna push myself out of that. So I'm gonna start with my Grimkin clowns. I had mostly finished them, but looking back, I can take them up another step. So I'm gonna practice taking them up another step on my Grimkin Hollowmen clowns unit. And then I'm going to start practicing all of that through everything else that I'm going to be doing moving forward. So thank you, Jordan, for taking the time to sit down and go over my stuff with me. And thank you, Private Fire Press, for hosting that painting competition. It really helped me find where I am and where I need to go next. And it was so much fun to see everybody else's entries and all the people who did win. Congratulations to Toad Painting, who took home the gold for that with his Pharaoh group. It was a really nice piece. I actually had no idea he was even there, and I didn't get a chance to actually physically meet him, which I'm a little upset about. But maybe next convention we'll hook up. Maybe we'll be head to head in the next lock and load. Who knows? So again, thank you everybody for that, and I look forward to the next painting competition. So after the convention kind of ended, there was a few people still hanging out with us. So after everybody had left, Gearbox was still hanging around waiting for his flight with his friend Lewis, and who was a super fun guy to talk to and talk MonPoc and talk games and things with. He was one of our new crewmen. So after that, we went back to our hotel room and we ended up playing MonPoc together. What I wanted to do is I wanted to pick his brain on power base creation and positioning, and how he looks at the game. And we had a good hour and a half game with this. Again, I have an article I'm writing for MonPoc.net. It should be up before this video goes up, and you can check it out there. But it was a super informative game. It really stepped up my game and made me understand positioning on a map, so the importance of finding that position on a map where a person can't get close enough to you to do an attack, and if you have to sacrifice something, try to minimize the amount of damage they can do to you. Screening and how to screen was also very important. Figuring out where you can use buildings to help you screen, and also units, because I never really considered buildings. I always considered buildings a threat, never a safe zone. And some maps have safe zones that you can land on, like Destruction Junction has an actual spot where you can move there and no one can line up with you to throw you anywhere. It's kind of neat. I don't know if other maps have that. I haven't looked into it. I forgot to ask, but it's a really neat little thing. But one of the biggest things that I took away from this game was my power base, and that I think will help me in my local tournaments, because I am not very good at building up and keeping my power base going and utilizing my units very well. And even this game, I did good at building my power base, but not utilizing some of my units. I had them on the board for multiple turns. They were just sitting there doing nothing. I didn't move them into position to try and take things or shoot. That's stuff that after when I played a couple of games here back at the house after Lock and Load, I started to find my stride with. Gearbox gave me a lot of really great things to think about, like, why am I using this unit? Why am I spawning this unit? Where is this? One of the things that I did realize playing against Gearbox and also playing in the Midnight MonPoc tournament was you very rarely control more than 2 buildings. Because usually by a certain turn they're either being destroyed or they're being contested by something. Whereas the backfield, you most of the time will have at least 1, but usually 2 buildings to hold on to build your power base with. So I kind of knew that going into it beforehand, but I never knew how to utilize it. And Gearbox gave me some great tips with bumping, with using the multiple units, which we used to do in 1.0. But when you're out of the game for a little bit, you get kind of lost in that, and you're like, oh, I don't have to do that. Oh, I can do that some other time. But you don't. You set that up from the start, and you do it. You hold it. So for me, it was finding the buildings that I wanted to control in the backfield right off the bat, and holding it and keeping it. I did learn some stuff with like the power plant, for example, and DX. When you power up with Defender X and the power plant's in your control, yeah, you take the risk of losing your units with a one-shot on the power plant when it explodes, but you also get 3 power dice every time you power up just from that control. 1 for Defender X's ability, 1 for controlling the building, and 1 for the power plant itself. So it's really cool. Like I took home a lot of stuff that was very valuable to me, and I really appreciate Gearbox taking the time to sit down and go over it. At like a pace that was grueling in some cases. I mean, we played for an hour and a half, and we didn't even finish the game. Like, oh no, we did finish the game, but it got kind of brutal towards the end. Like the city was leveled. It was ridiculous. I did also forget, even though I forget every game, that Defender X gets beat back when he was hyper. So what I did was I positioned myself at the last part, because I only had Zor Maxim left. He had both of his guys down to 3 health, and I was trying to figure out how I could kill at least one of them before I got killed. And I positioned into the safe zone, and then he's like, you know what you forgot? And as soon as he said, you know what you forgot? I was like, beat back. And he's like, beat back. And he moved his guys in, beat back me into the building I had just rebuilt to build up my power base, and I ended up dying. So it was a really good game. I took on some really hard lessons and some really good tips and advice. I'm going to try and write them all up on the MonPoc.net things just so you have it point by point. But it was really good. It's just a really good experience, and it was great to play against the world champ of MonPoc, or the current one, and get some tips and strategy from him, especially with monster pairings and understanding like what they bring to the table, what everything that you're going to be placing and doing means, and what you're trying to do with it. And that's something that with Monster Apocalypse I don't normally do, because stuff changes so quickly on the table, and stuff comes back so quickly on the table. But yeah, so it was just like comparing it to War Machine, it just like, it never feels like I have to plan that far ahead, because if I lose something I can just bring it back outside of a monster, of course. But anyways, so it was a really, really good experience. And after we finished our game of MonPoc, we went to our final trip to Taco Time. So Finnbog is obsessed with tacos. He went to Taco Time like 5 times during that thing. Because here in Canada, we don't have too many taco options, and Taco Bell really sucks here. And most of the taco places and Mexican places, Tex-Mex places, really suck here. So Taco Time was awesome. It was a refreshing experience, and we went for a final dinner, just so the final little hangout before Gearbox and Lewis had to head out to the airport. And you can take a peek at how awesome it was right here. That picture, it's awesome. Look at us, Taco Time, unofficial sponsor of Riker's Iron. Meals and fun at Lock and Load. That's not true. So my final thoughts and comments about the convention, all the stuff that we talked about was all the major things that happened during the event for myself. There was a ton of other cool stuff going on too. We had so many cool chats. I talked to so many great people. Like some people who were like, I just walked up and they were like, oh, you're Riker's Iron. I saw your stuff on Twitch and Facebook. And it's like, check out my stuff. And like just people showing off their minis. It was such like just that alone made the trip worth it. Like just getting to meet a ton of people who were so passionate about the game, from getting their ass kicked to winning. Like they just didn't care. They just wanted to play, and it really reinvigorated my War Machine soul because around here we have a very competitive mindset. We have a very competitive meta here in the Montreal-Gatineau region. We have Mick Waters, who is in the finals from here, and he takes home most of the tournaments, and anytime he shows up, if not all the tournaments. And it's very much there's not a lot of socializing that goes on during a steamroller. There's stuff that kind of happens, but during a game, you don't talk. Like, you don't get a chance to hang out and chat with the people, and it's really, to me, like, it's such a shame of the competitive scene that you only really get to chat with anybody, maybe on a break if everything coincides. And it was the opposite at Lock and Load. I mean, maybe during the actual tournaments, and it makes sense for a tournament. You know, you have that, you're on a clock, you got to get your round done. But like, I like to chat while I'm talking. I'm like, oh man, like, oh crazy, you know, like how does that work, you know? And then like, oh, just pause the clock, man. Like all this, like, it almost seems like angry whenever you're talking during a competitive scene. So part of the reason why I don't do them anymore is that. But that's a whole other topic that we covered on previous stuff on Twitch and Facebook. But yeah, I just met so many great people who just loved the game they were playing, loved painting it, loved knowing stuff about it, talking about it, and it really got me excited to keep going with it. And thank you guys for that, because it was something that I was worried about going. There was some things at the con. Pros at the con, it was very well organized in terms of knowing where things were at what times. There was a few time swaps to accommodate certain things, but they were posted on the board that everybody would pass by as you're walking through the main hall. The keynote was amazing. I really liked what they did with the keynote. They revealed a lot of cool stuff. They did a way better job at revealing Warcasters than they did Riot Quest the year before. Those of you who were part of our stream, you know our thoughts on that. I didn't get a chance to do any demos of Riot Quest, which I kind of a little bit upset about, but they didn't really have that many chances to do it. It was like, I think there was twice during the convention if you were around at a certain time, if you just happened to be at the table. But they did recently a live game of it, and it has me way more excited for the game than I was before. So I'm really looking forward to that release. Warcasters sounds awesome. They, like I said, they did a good job at revealing it. At the keynote, they gave a little bit of detail on it. It almost sounds like a replacement for a more competitive replacement for Company of Iron, to be honest. They talked about a lot of customization, which I'm not sure in a competitive format like that what kind of customization they can bring. But the model count that they mentioned is very close to what they talked about when they revealed Company of Iron. So I guess we'll have to wait and see on that. All the MonPoc stuff that they released, I'm so stoked for, so I don't even have to mention that. Just super excited across the board. And the Oblivion, when Oblivion comes out, we're gonna be featuring it a lot on our stream. We're gonna be doing a lot of YouTube stuff, doing a playthrough of the campaign over the next however long it takes. So really, really great things. And yeah, so that's my thoughts on the keynote. And part of the big reason why a lot of people go to Lock and Load is that initial keynote kickoff to get everyone excited for the convention. And it showed. Everybody was so stoked after that. The store itself, some improvement points on the store. There was mostly no stock for anything after the first day. Now, I heard later on after the convention that you could request them to bring stuff on Friday and Saturday and buy it. I had no idea. That wasn't really posted anywhere. When I did go into the store, I actually had purchased a lot of stuff, but they left them in my basket or on the counter and didn't charge us. So when I got back to my room, I actually thought that I bought things, and I was freaking out because I thought I dropped them or lost them. And I was running around looking for them. I checked the receipt and they weren't charged. They were just left at the counter. So I had to go back later and get those things. Amberwild went back for me to square up with the room and stuff, so thank you for that, Amberwild, for grabbing those pieces that were missing from what I thought I bought. Yeah, it was really weird. I didn't really get a chance to buy everything I wanted at the store. I was kind of hoping that they would do like an at Lock and Load discount on things. I wasn't expecting to be paying American prices straight up at the con, whatever it was. I feel like maybe in the future, as an improvement point for Privateer Press, offer a discount on the stuff that is there at the convention. Even if it is a new product, you offer, a 10% discount, you're probably still making a lot more money than maybe not selling anything. Because that was my point. I'm like, I can get this at American price in Canada and save like almost $5-6 a model. So like I didn't buy a lot of stuff because of that. I mostly bought stuff that I had gift cards for or wanted to give away to people because I needed it right away. So I didn't really keep too much stuff for myself that I did buy. I gave away most of it during our Lock and Load return stream. But yeah, so the store was really weird. Again, improvement point, maybe offer a discount. What are some other final thoughts? The Iron Arena. The Iron Arena was a great place, and this is something that Finnbog brought up because he spent his whole convention during that, like, playing in the arena. He got something like 18 or 20 games in or something like that, a lot of games. Two points to bring up. First, the fact that MonPoc wasn't considered part of the Iron Arena until Saturday was kind of upsetting. There was a lot of people there to play it. There was almost half the Iron Arena was set up for the game. I like that they added it in later. I know it was more of an organizational thing for that purpose, but it was a little like, oh my god, are they not going to be letting us get stuff for MonPoc from the Iron Arena, even though they have stuff for it? So thank you for improving that right off the bat as soon as the convention started. That was a really good addition. The second point for Iron Arena, absolutely amazing tables. I love that they had narrative tables and they had regular tables. I loved everything about that. Now, the one thing that a lot of people brought up, and I saw some people themselves trying to improve it, was matchmaking. I had games set up for people, so I didn't really feel this, but Finnbog, he ended up playing like the same 4 people like 2 or 3 times during the convention because there was a bunch of people just kind of like sitting at tables, either waiting for games but not wanting games with certain people, bogarting tables, and just sitting there not doing anything when people are waiting for tables, and trying to find a match with people. He was saying, like, I'd go around and he'd be like, you want a game? Be like, no. Oh, I'm looking for a game. Oh, I was looking for a game, but I found it. I didn't know you were here. Like, it was a lot of like confusion on trying to find a game. I feel like there's an opportunity there to, either on the community or on Privateer Press's side, to organize that into a more coherent looking for game group. I saw some people actually with signs like standing around like homeless people, begging for a game. That's one way to do it. I feel like maybe a coin system, you put your coin into a thing, or maybe a digital, like someone maybe set up a computer, put in your name, randomize availability, or are you available? Yes. Randomize, it picks someone, that person's like, oh, here I am, and you go off and you play a game with them. They're maybe that's something that we'll try to take on ourselves, but maybe it's something that the community itself can take on, and or maybe even Privateer Press can come up with a system. But that was one thing that I noticed, and something that Finnbog was kind of upset about and a little disappointed in, because that was his big thing, was he wanted to play as many games against as many people as he possibly could. And yeah, he got a lot of games in, but about 8 of those games, or 6 to 8 of those games, I can't remember how many games, were repeat against the same opponent, against the same army, almost the same list. So yeah. Overall, though, the convention was absolutely a blast. Like, I know I'm bringing up some points of improvement, but that's just because I want to see it even better. The thing that I loved the most was the convention being at the hotel, and it was like being in like a paradise. Wake up in the morning, watch a little bit of TV, you eat, you have your coffee, you're bouncing out the door by 8, and you're playing nonstop. You forget something, back to your room, you can have a drink, you come back. It was perfect. Like, I hope they continue that forever. And if they do that, I will definitely want to be coming back more and more as time goes on. As a final thought and nugget, thank you everybody who came up to me and signed my ledger. I brought my Lock and Load ledger with me, and if you guys have signed the ledger during the event, I'm going to be gifting you a free sub to my Twitch channel. So if you come by the Twitch channel and say, hey, I'm blah 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 blah, I signed your thing, find me in the book, I'll put a little check mark there, I'll gift you a sub. and you can have access to all of our stuff, and including our movie nights, including our Discord chats that we have a couple times a month, and our emotes and all the other cool subscriber stuff, including voting on our alternate history caster contest that's coming up on August 4th. So thank you everybody who did come up to me and say, hey, sign the ledger, or even just said hey and hung out, and we had some people just give us food and drink and things. Like, thank you for that. It really I wasn't expecting that. And one of the things that I was really shocked about the community was everybody just left their stuff around. I've never been comfortable with that at any hobby shop, because stuff always goes missing if you leave it around. I didn't hear of a single thing like that happening at the convention. I left my clock downstairs for almost overnight and woke up and was like, oh my god, I left my clock down here. And some people were using it, like thinking it was part of the table. So like stuff just didn't go missing. It was such a refreshing, great thing. And like people gripe a lot about the War Machine community, but going to the Lock and Load event, it really sunk home that not everybody out there who is playing is a really aggressive, neck beard. I know I'm using maybe a nerdy derogatory term, but like an angry neck beard gamer. You go there, everybody was so friendly, everyone was so inviting, everyone was so open to just playing things and trying things and giving advice on things, and I loved it. Absolutely loved it. Privateer Press did a great job at organizing the keynote. The keynote was great this year, organizing all the stuff, and thank you guys for putting that together, and thank you also, a big shout out to Headley, who really helped me out in the convention with finding awards and giving us some nuggets, some extra nuggets to give away that we might not have been able to purchase on our own. So thank you for that, and give him the old huggaroo or shout out on Twitter or Twitch whenever you see him around. So as a final little thank you again everybody from the Twitch stream and the Twitch community who made this experience probably one of the funnest I ever have, and I'll remember it forever. I really hope to catch you guys again at another convention, be it another Lock and Load, Captain Con, Gen Con, whatever we end up going to at some point, because I do want to go to more conventions now because of this experience, because of you guys. So thank you for that, and I really hope to catch you guys, and I hope you guys continue to support us here on YouTube and more so on Twitch. So if you do want to check us out, we paint. Those of you who are new actually to the channel or new to Riker's Iron, we do painting 4 days a week on our stream. We also do live game days, we do community movie nights, we do little contests and giveaways and a whole slew of stuff. We're trying to build a really good Privateer Press / other games that we'll mention on here community outside of certain ones which will remain nameless. Really trying to build up just a really great community, and you guys really shone, or we're the shining star of that of the experience for me. So thank you for that. Thank you for welcoming me and being so friendly and making me feel like I have a place somewhere other than in a small room with a camera and a bunch of paints and minis. So again, thank you guys once again, and we will catch you live on Twitch and here on YouTube in the coming future. So thank you, farewell, good day, and don't forget, wink.